Hello, everyone. Welcome back to, I'm saying welcome back as if we have like a regular like podcast or forecast or something, but it's really just Christine and me chatting again on a different topic. But thank you for joining us again. For those of you who haven't seen our previous recording, just a brief introduction. My name's Maria Stoyadinova. I'm a self-care and burnout prevention coach. And I'll let Christine, who's a fellow coach, introduce herself. And just before I get to that, I guess the topic today we're talking about is New Year's resolutions. But before we dive in, Christine, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure, and it's good to be back with you again, Maria, and back with everyone who hopefully watched our first video and now is watching this one. So I feel like it's a welcome back indeed,
Yes, that's kind of what it felt like. It felt right to just say welcome back. So
I agree. I like that. So I'm Christine Franklin, and I am a wellness coach, and I typically focus on anti-burnout mechanisms, mainly for busy business owners. And I am so happy to be talking about this topic of New Year's resolutions because it's very timely and it can really set the stage for what happens during the year. And I'm big on strategizing and planning for not just your business, but planning for your life in the same way that you may plan for a business. So I can't wait for us to dig in, Maria.
absolutely, I love all of that. Yes, I guess let's get started by just talking about resolutions in the sense. I mean, I think both of us were thinking of sort of covering the same type of thing, which is why don't most resolutions work? Because that's something I hear like a lot of people have these like grand ideas of why they want to do something and they decide to do like they make a big decision to start doing something January 1st, and then by early February, I forget the statistic, but like a vast majority of resolutions are abandoned by like within a month. And we kind of wanted to talk about why, and are resolutions even the right way to go? So what do you think about all of that? Like, do you like resolutions? Do you advise your clients to make resolutions? And what are some strategies to like make them successful?
Well, personally, I prefer to have goals rather than resolutions. That's just my personal take on how I approach things. But if a client prefers to have resolutions because that's what they're used to and comfortable with, I say, well, go for it. But let's just keep a few things in mind. And I'm sure these are the few things that we'll end up discussing today. I think the typical way that resolutions are set doesn't take into account a few, really important things. So that's what I always remind clients, even if they want to set those resolutions. They need to account for these other variables that very often people don't think about. And one of the first ones that I typically will talk about is accountability, because it's great to have this idea of what you'd like to achieve. And, let's take weight loss, for example. A lot of people say, I'd like to lose 20 pounds in 2 months. And so maybe they get started on a great program, but very often before we even get to the end of the first month, we hear, well, I couldn't stick with it. I started off with exercising consistently, but I couldn't keep up. I couldn't keep up with home cooked meals and healthy eating, and so on and so forth. And one of the major reasons that happens is because there's a lack of accountability. And even if they get through those 2 months, then after the 2 months is over, I always ask beforehand, okay, so what's your plan for after the 2 months is over? Even if you lose those 20 pounds, how are you going to manage your weight after that? And very often people haven't thought of that. I think there's this concept that once we achieve this goal, we're magically going to stay there at that weight and never move. And we know that's not realistically true. So there's a need for continued support and having a system that's sustainable, that's right for you and sustainable, that you can carry on with. And it's not just about the short-term result. So what about you? What do you tell your clients when it comes to New Year's resolutions?
Yeah, no, that's a great point about like, accountability and sustainability. The one thing that I see, I like you don't like resolutions. I like goals. I like the way you framed it. And I think the reason I don't like resolutions is because they feel very artificial in the sense that we feel like there's this magical date where, after January 1st, you all of a sudden become like this brand new person. Before that, you were this old person. It's not how it works. You don't magically transform into a different person. And so one is that it's just unrealistic and it's bizarre to have this like date in mind. But two, it's always sort of comes with this baked assumption that there was something wrong with you before, which I don't think is correct or is a good motivator to do things. Like if you sort of want to do things because you want to fix yourself, never a good motivator. Like it might sustain you for a few weeks and afterwards you're going to get discouraged. You're going to go back to thinking something's wrong with you. Like just, I don't believe in negative, negative motivation and negative, enforcement. So that for me is sort of in the gist, the problem with resolutions is you kind of think you're motivating yourself from a perspective of I need to fix myself, as opposed to like, I want to grow, I want to learn something, which is much more sustainable and much more, motivating. And then you think you're also just gonna magically go from one day to the other, like transforming your whole personality. Like I hear people who get setting these like massive goals of, I saw this Instagram reel, which was, a joke, but also kind of on brand with like how people set resolutions of like, last year I read 2 books, but this year I'm going to read 100. Like, how is this even going to happen? Like clearly in your schedule, you're not like building in time for reading if that's important. Like, how are you all of a sudden going to go to 100? So like it's this idea that you're gonna just start doing something completely different with your life on January 1st. And I guess another thing that I think goes wrong with resolutions is people kind of set them, I mean, it goes with what I initially said, kind of set them for the wrong reasons. Like they don't necessarily want to be doing something, but I kind of feel like they should be because it's the morally superior thing to do or the right thing to do. So it's one of two things go wrong with resolutions usually. Either you do it for the wrong reasons and try to motivate yourself with like negative self-talk, or you do it for the right reasons, like you actively want to learn or want to read more during the year, but you just set a goal that's so unrealistic that it just doesn't, it's not sustainable and it doesn't make sense. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I really love what you said about negative self-talk. That really struck me because that is so common. New Year's resolutions are usually about what I want to stop doing, what I want to say no to, all of these negative concepts. So I love that. And I always say to clients, it's really about saying yes to yourself and saying yes to life and focusing on what that yes means rather than focusing on the no, because our brains don't like that anyway. We're always going to be resistant to that, and that's not going to keep us going. But having something that we look forward to, well, that's a whole different ballgame.
Absolutely. And I mean, I'm circling back to like the reading example because I personally like tried to set that goal for myself last year. And I made the mistake of like trying to set it from a negative place first. So I was like, it's morally superior to be reading more, so I should start reading. And of course that didn't work. Like I read for 2 days and I was like, this is horrible and I don't want to do this anymore. Then I was like, okay, I actually do love reading, but I'm just trying to approach it from this like terrible like self-judgment place. So when I approached it from the I love reading space, and also I set a realistic goal, I literally told myself I'm going to read for 5 minutes a day. Like that's it. 5 minutes seems extremely doable and very sustainable. And I still don't do it every single day, which is fine. That's the other thing is people like feel like there's a wagon and you like fall off the wagon. Like there's no such thing. It's fine to not read for a few days or not do the thing for a few days. As long as you're doing it from a place of like self-love and curiosity, it's not that big of a deal if you skip a few days. Right? But people are like very, I think it's as we talked about, I think last time, it's like all or nothing. Perfectionist brains are always like, it's going to be perfect or it's nothing. Nothing in between.
Especially if they're high achievers. I'm a high achiever, so I know all about that, but I've learned how to tone down that element. So
Exactly. And I also love what you said about like just saying yes. Like for instance, when it comes to, I don't personally teach weight loss. I don't believe in intentional weight loss, but for instance, like if people want to incorporate, like I believe in intuitive eating, and people are like, if people want to practice intuitive eating and maybe like practice gentle nutrition with that and like eat more veggies, it's a much different vibe from like I need to stop eating X and focus on
Yes.
vegetables versus how can I add one vegetable to my lunch? I still like follow my body and eat what I want for lunch. And is there a way to add a vegetable without ruining that? That's like a very different question and significantly more sustainable than like, I'm gonna give up all the foods I love and only switch to veggies and they're gonna be like terrible and like not seasoned at all. And like this again, this like all or nothing mentality versus like, what can I say yes to as opposed to what can I like take away from my life and make myself miserable in the
I
process.
totally agree. I totally agree because I don't have any weight loss programs at all in my program. I really don't recommend trying to do that kind of short-term weight loss
Yeah.
kind of strategy. So I agree. I always tell people if you want to be healthy, which is what people want, then your weight will be managed accordingly. When you get healthy, the healthier you get. I mean, it's not like a final goal, it's a journey anyway. But
Right.
as you get healthier bit by bit, and we're always getting healthier as long as we just make some small
Yeah.
change, then you don't even have to worry about the weight. If you have excess weight, it'll come off in due course. It's not a matter of just trying to get it done. I
Yeah.
don't think there's a done. We just need to manage ourselves through this journey called life.
Yeah, absolutely. And what is another thing I would just add to this is like what is excess weight is varies widely from person to person. I don't think
Yes.
like the way we currently do it, I think in the medical community is for many reasons not the right way to do it. Like some bodies settle at much higher weight, like there's the set point. So but yeah, I
Yes.
agree. Like I feel taking away that focus from the weight, which is so judgmental and causes so many issues, and trying to focus on health behaviors if that's what you want to promote, that's I think the way to go. Like if that's your resolution and that's your goal, is like focus on the behaviors. Weight is not a behavior.
It's
The
true.
things you do are behaviors. But yeah, in general, I think sort of to sum up what we've I think both been saying and both been agreeing on is sort of approach it from a positive perspective. Don't approach it from a like, I'm gonna have to say no to something and something is wrong with me. There's nothing wrong with you. We can learn as humans and we can grow as humans without thinking there's something wrong with us first, which is like a big thing that people believe. It's like, in order to grow, I need to beat myself up about where I am right now. Absolutely not. In fact, it's completely counterproductive to do that. And then from this sort of positive place, figure out something that's sustainable and that's doable for you, not something that just feels outrageous and your perfectionist brain wants to do like this massive step, this massive change. Anything else you want to add, sort of in summary?
No, I think that really covers it. It's all about understanding that a better you is always a journey. It's always about making small improvements. So
Mhm.
there's no need to put that pressure on at the beginning of any year to suddenly
Yeah.
try to transform yourself and go from 0 to 100 in 1 week. So I
100%.
totally agree with everything that you've said in summary.
I love it. All right. Well, let's before we wrap up, let's just tell people where they can find us. So if people want to work with you or find more of your content and more of your work, where can they find you?
Well, they can go to my website, which is iamhealthywealthy.com. You can also find me on Instagram at thegoodlife.bb. And I'm also on LinkedIn. You can just search for Christine Franklin. That's Lyn at the end. What about you, Maria? Where can we find
Perfect.
you?
Thank you. So yeah, my website is restovergrind.com, and you can find there some information on how you can work with me and schedule a free consult. You can also find me on Instagram at rest_over_grind, or on LinkedIn if you search for Rest Over Grind. So those are the main platforms. They have a few others, but those are the main ones where you can find me.
Well, wonderful. This has been fantastic. I'm sure someone out there will find something useful, and we'd love to hear your feedback. So please drop a comment below to let us know what your thoughts are.
Yes, thank you so much. This was great. And I'm sure we will chat soon again on another topic. Thank you, everyone, for joining us.
Bye for now.
Bye.